everybody. Today is January 11th. It is Wednesday. We are getting there. This is the Freedom Fix podcast. So I started a segment yesterday called Why Be a Conservative, and I want to continue down that path. I think it's something I could, add permanently to this show because I think there's always more reasons. There's always more to add to it. It's a struggle that we will be on for the rest of our lives because tyranny will always try to weasel its way back in. So today, I just want to start by saying that conservatives don't view the poor as liabilities waiting to be managed. It's a common criticism, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed. They think we don't care about the poor. We only care about the rich, and we want to get rid of the welfare state, so that must mean we hate the poor. Well, that doesn't really, add up, considering conservatives on average give more to charity. We just we have a different method. We have a different approach to it. Conservatives believe that there's tremendous upward mobility in the free enterprise, the free market system. We view the poor as dormant assets. They are not, helpless goldfish just waiting for a pinch of food to keep them alive for another 24 hours in the eyes of a conservative. We view the poor as untapped sources of prosperity, not charity cases. We don't view work as punishment, and we believe that the poor require investment, not just handouts. Handouts alleviate the short-term needs, but real investment is required to bring these dormant assets to life. Compassion for the poor does not look like the welfare state. What's more compassionate? Giving a homeless man a bologna sandwich or introducing him to the same homeless man to a person who gives him a job, allowing him to get his own apartment and begin to claw his way back to a decent standard of living? Well, I can say that conservatives believe in the latter. The free market is also the fairest approach for everybody. It allows you to exchange your time for products and services at your own discretion. You can exchange as much of it or as little of it as you want, and you can always donate more of your time to meet the costs of the desired product or service. There is no compulsion here. It's 100% voluntary. If you don't think your time is worth what the product or service is asking for, in the form of money, of course, you can decline and seek other options. It also means that you can exchange 5 minutes of your time for labor that requires multiple parties to collaborate to bring the product to your fingertips. So, for example, say you're talking about a pencil, something as simple as that. It requires lumberjacks. It requires miners. It requires, the manufacturing of rubber, among other things. How the hell do you get that lead or whatever inside the graphite inside of the piece of wood? I mean, there's a lot more to it, you can, for just a small price, which is, let's just say, 5 minutes of your time that you would normally, whatever you get paid for 5 minutes of time at your job, let's just say that's what it costs to buy a pack of pencils. You can exchange that 5 minutes in the form of money for a functioning box of pencils. I mean, how insane is that? The parts come from all over the world, yet you can exchange a few minutes of your time to get one for yourself. Almost 100% of the time, individuals cannot create the products they pay for. At least they can't do it very efficiently, not nearly as efficiently as companies can do, and collaborating companies can do, which requires freedom, by the way. So this could easily get into the tariff side of things, which Donald Trump is actually in favor of tariffs, which is not freedom lovers should not be a fan of tariffs, but I digress. So back to the pencils. Or let's just use a different example. How about, a computer? I'm not talking about building a computer. I'm talking about, can you, like, if you didn't have any of the tools, or you didn't have any of the resources or knowledge, could you figure out how to just build a computer from scratch? We're talking about everything that goes into that. The motherboard, the wiring, hard drive, the network card, everything. I mean, you need to not just build a computer. Like, I went to newegg.com and bought all the crap and just like connected it. I mean, actually creating all of that and have it work. Of course you're not. Not unless you're some kind of once-in-a-lifetime genius. And even then, you'd probably have to rely on others to help create it from scratch for the first time, as it would also require the resources, not just the intellect to create it. Do you want to go get all of the individual parts to make it, the metal, the rubber, etc., everything that goes into the parts? How do you make a screw? You're going to need screws to keep the thing held together. How do you make the machine that makes the screws and the other pieces? Not only do you have to know how to make the computer, you have to know how to make 3D molding machines. Not use them, I mean make them. You would need to do everything from scratch. You need to know welding, you need to know countless other crafts. I'm just saying this to illustrate how important and dependent we are on free exchanges of money and time for products and services. It's what created this nation. And that leads me to the next thing, because there's a lot of talk. Bernie Sanders just tweeted out some stuff about, the free healthcare, like how it's crazy that people can go, like they need something, but it's crazy that they can't afford it and they just don't get the care. And it's like, okay, well, let me just touch on this. Conservatives do not believe anyone is owed anything, including time of other people, whether it's healthcare or computer sales, going back to the previous example. In both cases, in these fields, the companies exchange their time for compensation. That is the dynamic of this successful economy. That's how it works. If you do not have the money to buy a computer, you can't force Dell to just give you one anyway. That's compulsion. That's immoral. If you can't afford a bottle of Dasani water just because it's a hot day, I promise breaking into a convenience store to take it will get you arrested, as it should. Now, charity is one thing, but theft is another. Stealing from others is wrong, period. This might sound, uncompassionate, but there's nothing compassionate about, thievery. This is why conservatives have such a problem with universal health care. It has nothing to do with, it's nothing more than theft of large scale, perpetrated by the government against citizens and the healthcare system as a whole. Doctors and insurers and everybody. You can't ethically or morally force healthy people to pay for unhealthy people. That alone, it's immoral to even try. You can say it's immoral to allow people to be unhealthy and go without care, but it's not, no matter what you say, it's not moral to steal from somebody to use for another. Like, just any way you want to look at that. And there's no way for government to get into the healthcare game without using compulsion and theft to make it happen. There's just no way, because you don't own that doctor's time. You can't force that doctor to work for you. You can't force this patient. Morally speaking, you can't do it. You can't force healthy people to pay for unhealthy people. So, like, the person who, is out there up at 5 a.m, the person, the one that's got like the Fitbit on and the headphones that always runs in front of you because they aren't paying attention on the sidewalk and they just keep jogging like they're the only people on the planet. Yeah, those people, as bad as I'm making them sound, they're actually out there doing it. They're out there actually living a healthy life. And that person has to fork out money from their wallet when they get back from their 5-mile run. They got to go open up the wallet, take out, a few bucks every day and ship it to your unhealthy McDonald's eating behind. I'm going to keep this a civil, I won't say PC, but it's certainly, I can't take this show and start throwing cuss words around, but I'd love to about those people because they're lazy and they want you to pay for their poor choices. Again, choices. Being unhealthy, for the most part, is a choice. And even then, even if it's not up to me to pay for you. You're infringing on my freedom. Sorry, horrible things do happen. And we can do our best through charity to help, alleviate some of those problems. But you can't force me, morally speaking, to pay for your crap, whether it's your house, whether it's your health, whether it's any commodity. So conservatives believe all of this to be immoral, and that's why they tend to be conservative. And if you happen to believe that, welcome. If you're just arriving here from the other side of the fence, we'd love to teach you more about the way we think. It's not just some new idea, and it might not be progressive, but you know what? It is the moral choice, and it's the best choice for economic freedom and prosperity. So moving on, let's get into some of the news. There's a whole lot happening today. Today was the press conference for President-elect Trump. There's so much that's happened. So I'll just get right into. I'll start off with this because it's pretty much the story of the day. President-elect Trump is responding to BuzzFeed and CNN, and there was some just crazy stuff that was put out. I mean, we're talking really wild, completely untrue, unverified stuff. I mean, the journalistic integrity of BuzzFeed is, I didn't think it was very high, but it's unbelievable. Like when you hear the stuff that was in it, if you haven't already heard, you're going to realize what I'm talking about, that they have no journalistic integrity to even put this stuff out there. So some of the claims, and CNN didn't go quite as far, but BuzzFeed took it and just published all of the documents, and they didn't check any of it. They just put it out into the world. And this tells you what this election cycle and 2016 has done to this country, and especially the media. So some of the stuff that's in there, they were saying, I'm just going to jump to the most insane thing just to prove a point. They said that Donald Trump was in like Moscow hotels, and he was staying where President Obama stayed, and he was in that room, and he hated the room so much and the bed that he slept on so much that he hired a bunch of prostitutes to come in and give like golden showers, pissing all over the bed on him or whatever. I don't know. It's pretty insane. It's just like the depths of the internet don't come up with a lot of this stuff, and it's actually being published and put out there by BuzzFeed and CNN of all. It's unbelievable. So CNN only sort of like hinted at it, and they referenced that there was some claims about Donald Trump and his staff, and if it was only left at that, he would have had some questions to answer, because it would have been so vague, and people would just pick sides because that's all people do these days, and he would have been grilled at the press conference, and it didn't happen that way because BuzzFeed posted the whole transcripts or the whole documents of all the claims, and they're crazy, and most of them have already been proven false. Like members of his staff who were supposedly in Prague, making deals with the Russians and stuff. Like it was proven that the time that they said he was in Prague, Mr. Cohen, I believe, said it wasn't even him, but like he wasn't even in Prague. He's never been to Prague. He's never ever been to Prague, and he has an alibi. Like, people are saying, yeah, he was in California, or he was here with me, like watching a softball game, or at a ballet, or a recital or something. And it was like just a bunch of this stuff, and it was just crazy town stuff. Obviously, I mean, we're talking about prostitutes peeing on Trump and or the bed. I mean, it was just, what did anyone read this stuff and think 2 seconds, like, if we ever want to have any credibility ever again, maybe we should, like, either even not run this, or at least verify this stuff before we even think about putting such just baloney out on the internet. It's unbelievable. So here we are, and they have a press conference, or President-elect Trump has a press conference today, and you can just imagine what he was about to do to the press. It's the first press conference since the election, and he absolutely...
Since you are attacking our news organization, not you.
So,
your organization is terrible.
I'm going to play a clip.
Your organization is terrible. Let's go.
Question,
sir. Go ahead. Sir, quiet.
Quiet.
Mr. President-elect, go ahead. She's asking a question. Don't be rude. Can you give us a question? Don't be rude. Can you give us a question? Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question. Can you state categorically? You are fake news. Sir, go ahead. Can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not appropriate.
Okay, yeah, so you heard it. Fake news. Trump put this reporter in a journalistic body bag. I mean, it was a reporter, CNN reporter, Jim Acosta, and he just kept harassing Trump, and Trump just absolutely buried him. And, in many ways, I love it. Like, they deserve it so bad. I mean, they do. They really do. We've been waiting for years to see these, partisan reporters just get buried. I mean, they go around, I don't know. Let's just say this. I have worries about this. They totally deserved it, but, I mean, they are all just Democrat operatives with a press card, as Andrew Klavan often says. They deserve every bit of it, but my worry is that Trump does need to be kept in check, and we've already seen a massive interference in freedom of the press under our current president. I know a lot of people aren't aware of it, but I really don't want to see it happen again under Trump. So if Obama engaged in censorship of the press, such as in the case of New York Times national security reporter who had a story squashed by the administration, I definitely want to make sure that the press don't get treated that way under, President-elect Trump. I want him to be harsh on them, but I don't want him to silence them as much as they're full of just absolute garbage. So this was according to the New York Times. So they said, over the past 8 years, the administration has prosecuted 9 cases involving whistleblowers and leakers, compared with only 3 by all previous administrations combined. It has repeatedly used the Espionage Act, a relic of a World War I era red baiting, not to prosecute spies, but to go after government officials who talk to journalists. When the New York Times is calling out a leftist president, you're overstepping your lines. They're completely in the tank for Democrats, yet even they are sick of the infringement on press freedom under President Obama and his administration. So while I do enjoy hearing Trump, just wreck these partisan hacks who pretend to be objective journalists, I really do worry about this president being kept in check. Trump is a loose cannon. I mean, the guy, as a conservative, we always need to hold him to the fire for his decisions, especially when his policy fails the conservative sniff test, which a lot of it has. I mean, there's a lot of it that is not very conservative about him. And we can enjoy the small victories, but we do need to keep an eye on them. So outside of the main headline news stuff, I'd like to just touch on a couple other little things I dug up, such as an update to whatever happened to that Target creep. Yeah, I'm talking the transgender situation that, I don't know what exactly has been happening for the last 5 months, but back in July, there was an individual who goes by the name Shauna, but his name is Shaun, legal name, I believe. He wandered into a dressing room in Target, and he just sort of like started filming an 18-year-old switching into a swimsuit, and he got caught. So Shauna is a 43-year-old man, and he was peeping, Mr. Peeping Peeping Tom. So Shauna was just sentenced recently, either like today or yesterday, to 2 to 5 years, and will also be forced to pay for the victim's counseling. But my question is, where is Target's liability in this? They practically encouraged this crap. You don't get to implement radical policies that carry increased risk of harming your own customers without having some liability, especially when the choice was deliberate, carefully thought out. I mean, I don't know. They proceeded ahead with the risks anyway. So let's listen to what the victim had to say. She said, quote, "I never thought this would happen. I always supported the transgender community, but I felt a little betrayed," unquote. Yeah, no kidding. Everyone was saying this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen when you pervert, gender identity and gender association is all just fluid and, anybody can do anything. Yeah, if you don't draw a line in the sand, I promise society will crumble and you're going to have stuff like this happening, and it's going to be a lot more widespread. I don't know. It's one time is too many, to be honest. Ask this 18-year-old who's going to therapy now. Target, was it worth it? Okay, maybe that's what you think, but moving on. So women are coming to Washington, D.C. to protest against Trump. I believe it's the day after the inauguration, which, that's not really news, but, there's going to be a whole mess of chaos here in D.C. pretty soon. It's about to get extremely chaotic. Supporters and protesters will probably collide like they did through the whole election cycle. But there have been a whole lot of planned marches already. The whole Not My President crowd will be making a scene here. I have no doubt about that. But that's to be expected. Now, here's the surprising part. It's that the left continues to polarize even their own. How so, you may ask? Well, plenty of women plan to, to do this march that I was talking about the day after the inauguration. But there's a report from the New York Times. I'll just read it because it kind of explains exactly what I was about to say anyway in more detail. And it's a more specific example of what's happening. So, New York Times reports, a debate then ensued about whether white women were just now experiencing what minority women experience daily, or were having a hard time yielding control. A young white woman from Baltimore wrote with bitterness that white women who might have been victims of rape and abuse were being asked to check their privilege, a catchphrase that refers to people acknowledging their advantages, but which even some liberal women find unduly confrontational. So there you have it, freedom lovers. One victim group is boxing out another. There is more to it. I forgot to cut another portion of that. So it was multiple black women who were telling white women to check their privilege, saying that they could arrive, they could come, they can march, but they better just, close their mouths and just, walk. You're not there to have a voice. You're there just to be present because we're the ones that are real victims. So one victim group, as I said, is boxing out another lesser victim group. Black women are higher on the victimization scale, the hierarchy. The victim classes of the left is like a game of paper, rock, scissors. In this case, black women beat white women, but it doesn't end there. Homosexuals are more victimized than women, so if a homosexual says something, women take a back seat. It's all about privilege on the left, and that's why they eat their own. Need more examples? Gay men are more privileged than gay women. Why? Well, gay men still have male privilege. And Native American men are higher on the victim hierarchy than straight Asian women. Why is this? Well, they're the people that rightfully own the land. Like, they're like one of the most revered victim groups. They're so rare. So, and Asian women, they're just, Asian isn't even really a minority, It's just, can you see how this web of insanity begins to cause the left to eat its own? So this all extends to the victim class of Muslims as well. When, a Muslim woman speaks out against the religion for its intolerant ways, the left quickly shuts that person down, as seen with Ayaan Hirsi Ali. She is an ex-Muslim feminist who was thrown out quicker than a dirty diaper due to her opposition to Islam. Because it's a victim group, and the left will not allow you to talk trash about a victim group, even if you came from a horrible Islamic, subjugation of women and all that type of environment. So Hirsi Ali was helping make a film to expose the treatment of women within Islam, and the creator of the film, Theo van Gogh, was murdered in Amsterdam, and with a threat aimed at Hirsi Ali stuck to his chest. Basically, like, stand down, shut up, or we're going to kill you. Well, I guarantee she had like a fatwa, as they call it, on her head, a religious order to like a death sentence, basically. If she's ever seen around anyone, they're going to like probably go to heaven if they kill her. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's how it is for her. But anyway, so why didn't the left listen to her? Because Muslim victimization falls higher on the hierarchy than feminism. If Hirsi Ali left a religion like Christianity, she would have been embraced by the entire tolerant left, probably winning film awards, a Nobel Peace Prize, and meeting with the president. But she came from Islam, a victim group. And this goes to show why so little concern is given to, when Jews are murdered in terrorist attacks compared to the plight of Muslims in Palestine. It's why President Obama's administration literally redacted the 911 call of the Orlando shooter to remove Islam from the transcripts, even though the shooter openly pledged allegiance to Allah and Islam. That's the world we live in, folks. Censorship, government power, victimhood, privilege. It's all just a bunch of BS. But anyway, once you actually start paying attention to how all of this narrative ties together, you become disgusted by how immoral and this intersectionality is that the left refers to. It's just despicable. I can't stand it, and it's pretty immoral. I mean, I only can't stand it because it's so immoral. I have to take a stand against it. I don't mean to just sound grumpy, but like, it's really sickening. It's terribly sickening. Boxing people into like groups based on skin color. I know not everybody on the left believes that, but that is the overwhelming trend on that side. It's all identity politics, and I just can't be down with that. On top of that, I love freedom, so of course I'll never be over on that side. So continue to eat your own. Talking to you, far leftists. Does anyone think this woman being told to screw off by fellow Trump haters is going to be talked down to for very long? How long will she put up with it? I give it like a year or two at most, if she's very patient. Eventually she'll flip to the other side, and I promise we will have open arms for this woman and all others who are pushed away. There is a tremendous opportunity to use compassionate conservatism to win all of these people back, whether they're white, black, gay, straight, men, women, pick your groups. We don't view those people as groups. We view them as individuals. So welcome. You're going to love it over here. Once the dust settles and the chips fall, I promise freedom is going to win out. No matter all the negative, preconceived notions that you have about the side and even bad experiences with people from this side, I promise it's going to have more prosperity, more freedom, and more good for the world than anything the collectivist view could ever dream of. Well, they're great at dreaming, but you know what I mean. Lastly, let's just get to it. It is the Dumb Leftist Comment of the day. This comment comes from Craig39 of Salon.com. Craig39 says, quote, "First, Obama is a centrist who leans a little left and right. Secondly, his policies have brought the country back from the worst economic collapse since the Great Depression." I'm starting to do an impression of what I think this person sounds like. "And no, the left did not cause that. It was the policies of the Bush administration, the lack of regulations, and the tax policy. So just STFU, fool," unquote. Okay, so I would tell this person to go back to, I don't know, whatever bubble they're living in, but they probably are already there. So let's just look at this. If Obama is a centrist, Lena Dunham is an ardent registered Tea Party member. Look, I understand that not all people deep dive into politics to evaluate, the policy implications. And, even a majority of Trump supporters probably didn't pay a whole ton of attention to every single story throughout the election cycle. They're just, beer drinking everyday people who just got sick and tired of being told how horrible they are, how privileged they are, all while their jobs are disappearing, with wealthy people from the city demonstrating the self-admiration only rivaled by Hollywood. And likewise, I'm sure there are people like Craig39 who really do believe that President Obama is a centrist. Does that make this comment any less asinine? No. And for that, Craig39, you can continue your illustrious path in life, forever crowned with January 11th's Dumb Leftist Comment of the Day. Well, that's all I got for today, folks. So tune in tomorrow. It'll be the last episode before the weekend. We got the big holiday coming up, Martin Luther King Day. I'm sure he's looking back at the Black Lives Matter movement, just saying, wow. All right, folks, enjoy your freedom as always. My name is Derek. This is the Freedom Fix Podcast. Signing off.